Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 119th of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Mr. Çağlayan Göksoy. He's an illustrator and concept artist from Antalya, Turkey, and he's my first Turkish guest, so it's going to be interesting because I was kind of planning to have my first, Turkish artist guest episode, so I would, speak Turkish in that, and I would, practice for that to make it a nice challenge for myself, but I failed, so yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's jump into the first question. Give us a little introduction on how you got into visual arts and design.
Hello, and thank you for having me, first of all. My story is pretty boring and cliche, as much as probably most of the people that are listening heard it before several times. I have been had a tendency to draw with some whatever I could find as a baby, as a kid, with my mom's lipsticks, etc., on the walls. And they finally gave up and bought me some crayons and shit, apparently. And I've been drawing since then. And on the towards the last years of high school, I was thinking of becoming a architect, like studying architecture. And but something sort of clicked after meeting some architects, and I'm thinking it's also the benefit of being a teenager and not knowing any better. So I decided to pursue illustration, graphic design, and animation, that sort of stuff. I didn't actually know what I was going to do. I just wanted to. I just knew I didn't want to do architecture or engineering, that regular stuff. In spite of people telling me to get a real job, because back then, graphic design or painting in general wasn't considered as a real job. But yeah, stubbornness got the better side of things, and I went and get into. Oh, let me tell you, I was actually how can I say, so sure of myself that I was going to get into the finest of the best um, fine arts university. I thought I was good enough. Of course, I wasn't, but I just went to the exams there and one other university, the Bilkent University, and I was thinking I'm just going to go to the Bilkent and I'm gonna have a look at how these exams, like entry exams, are going to be, and then I'm going to win the Anadolu University. And I went there. Surprisingly, the Bilkent one went very well, and a couple of weeks later, I went to Eskişehir and got into the Anadolu University exam. And there, it didn't go that well. And while I was pondering on my failure on a cafe, I got a call from the Bilkent University congratulating me and etc., saying I won apparently the Bilkent exam on the as the first place, and they were saying oh, you can come here, etc. You don't have to pay anything. You're just going to get a free free education. And I'm sure, fine, well, whatever. I was still salty about not getting the place on Anadolu University. But then I went to the weekends, and it was fine at first. But then I sort of start to realize that year, the idea of graphic design or fine arts education I thought there would be wasn't what I think. The reality didn't match my expectations. I had always had a different view of the campus life and uh, sort of education I would get. So as the stubborn teenager again, I said fuck this, and I left the said Bilkent University, uh, and I tried to um, educate myself on these entry exams and try to get my skills on a better level. And on that summer, again, I went to the Antalya University entry exams, and this time I won and got into Antalya University, and I was like, yay, I'm in my dream place. And after 2 years, I said, fuck this, and returned, because, again, the place and the system didn't really match my expectations. So I said, fuck this, I'm going to teach myself, because at the time, like, this is, what's 2014, 15? Around those times, the art community and the concept arts community start to get bigger and louder, and people start to see what it was actually doing. Like, everybody was like assuming the concept art or illustration, etc., was like just a hobby, at least here. And teachers were always saying, like, no, that's not a real thing. Like, you gotta be a graphic designer, you gotta work through the logos or posters, etc. And I always found designing logos to be extremely painful, like boring. Like, that's just me. People love it, but always wants to draw and like visualize stuff. So around those times, I started to, like, I stopped going to the lessons, like lectures, etc. And I will stay home in Eskişehir and, like, on my little crappy laptop with the crappy little tablet. I'll just keep grinding the Photoshop, trying to learn, trying to get myself better. And that took a long while till I was actually comfortable with my skill level. And yeah, the rest is basically just a boring, like, gradual learning, failing, breakdowns, rage quits, and like, I gotta do this shit again stuff. And like, what, 7-8 years later, we are here.
All right, awesome. That was quite a ride, actually. All right, now my next kind of question is that what is your main branch of design that you're focusing on right now? And tell us about your experience from the start of it until now. I mean, of course, in the introduction, I mentioned that you're an illustrator and a concept artist, but which field do you like specialize in?
I would say character design and character illustration. I find it easier to illustrate the story through the characters instead of the environments. Like, I'm trying to get better at environment and backgrounds lately, trying to get more work done with including how can I say, more refined and thoughtful background drops or vistas. But yeah, my main focus is characters.
All right, and speaking of characters, how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a character concept and just draw it out?
Ooh, that's a good question that I have no idea how to answer. It usually depends on the occasion. If it's a work, as like, obviously there will be a brief or like client wishes or etc. Like, there will be a plan for me to visualize a set of goals, as in era or, you know, the character style, or how can I say, the general vibe of the character. Like, or if I'm doing something for myself, then the same thing kind of applies, but it's more of a natural flow, like what I'm feeling like this character should be in a given story. Because I haven't really actually shared any of my personal concepts, because first gotta do the story and stuff, like gotta finish it. Then I'm going to planning on sharing them as a bunch, like as a collection, so that everybody can see. Other than that, if I'm doing a fan art or like a fan concept, I will try to emphasize what the original design was going for, but what I thought it would be, or what I thought it lacked. I mean, saying it lacked is a bit of a how can egotistical statement, because like especially movies and comics or games go through a bunch of like conceptualization, and me saying like this design lacks something is going to be like wrong, because obviously they probably thought of that, but it's more of a personal touch. Like for example, I keep doing my version of Lord of the Rings characters. There is the thought process for those are literally, okay, what does it come to my mind while I'm reading the book or while I'm watching the movie, and think, okay, this was done like 25 years ago, like 25 years ago, and they had the limitations of the time. So what would I do if I had the same brief today with today's like standards? What would I come up with if this assignment was given to me? That's basically it.
All right, interesting. And speaking of like assignments and all of that, what was the first art job paycheck you ever got, and what was it for, and how did you feel at the time when you got that paycheck?
First one, like first professional one was wait, what was the name? I don't remember the name of the company, but the name of the game was Ketto. It was a card game. It was some samurai, and was it Table Forged? I think the name of the company was Table Forged. It was an indie card game company, and I think this was like their second game. They saw me on DeviantArt like in 2014, 15, 14. I think it was 2014, and they said like they would like me to draw something, some samurai for them, or historical figures. I was like, wait, are you serious? Like, I thought it was like spam or like trolling or something. And then they were serious and they would like to pay. And I was like, fuck yeah, like sure. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. So yeah, I think they gave me 6 historical figures from Japanese history, and they just wanted to have a clear, like a traditional pencil drawing. And I was like, I'm going to rock this shit so much. It's going to look like the best pencil drawing that you could get in digital form. Of course, this was 2014 me. Today, I wouldn't say that, but at the time, I was like stoked. I was, and I think I didn't go to uni that whole month, and I just back to back drew all of them. And they were super nice. Didn't have any issues with the payment. It wasn't much, like it wasn't a big amount of money because it was literally my first job, but it felt so good to actually turn my passion into like tangible money, income so fast, because I wasn't expecting to be earning money like that fast in university. I always thought I should get good, like I should get better, a lot better. But yeah, that gave me a instant confidence boost, and like made me hopeful for future, because like if I can earn some money, even if it's a pocket money for now. That means I could earn a living in a few years out of what I like to do as a living.
All right, pretty interesting. And can I ask you something, like when they contacted you on DeviantArt in 2014, the way they find you was probably because of hashtags, right?
I'm guessing so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
At the
something I've
time,
been. Yeah, sorry, go on.
sorry. At the time, I was doing more traditional drawings. I think they saw like my paper drawing, like normal pencil drawings, probably through hashtags, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, totally, because it's something that I've been researching lately, and most of the top tier clients, like, big top companies like Marvel, Disney, Sony, um, like I could go on and on and on. Most of them always have talent scouts on social medias, always. And the way these talent
Yes.
scouts operate is they go through, like, different art pages that post other artist pages, those kind of compilation style pages, and also mostly correct hashtags. So so you don't, so for anyone who's listening and they're worried, oh my god, how can I get exposure? You don't. You just focus and get laser focused on the niche you want to get good at, and lo and behold, after a while, that your quality of work actually legitimately, objectively increases, and you produce good art consistently, and you use the correct hashtags to them, bam, you get really high paying clients.
Yep. Social media is like a double-edged sword in that regard, because most of the, especially beginning artists, like you can get both an instant shot of dopamine with social media, like instant gratification, and that sense of like success. But then there's the other side of the social media that's makes you feel like you are not good enough when you don't get the attention you think you deserve, or like you think your work deserves. Like um how to put this, it's such a fluid dynamic in the social media, like it's always changing, the hashtag, the topics, or like the way to get a clout or whatever they say now, uh, changes so fluidly, every day, every week. uh, Sometimes I see artists with like terrific works, like so much better than me, with like 1,000 or 2,000 followers, because they like the algorithm just doesn't favor them sometimes. But then I don't want to say worse, but like then I saw so much simpler works having hundreds of thousands of followers. It's like a weird mix of luck and skill. uh, the talent scouts, I don't know how they actually operate in that space, like to find the best suit for them. I'm get like there's always a luck uh, involved in this stuff. But yeah, more than the social media, I will say the platforms such as ArtStation, Behance, and DeviantArt to some degree works like they will be looking more to that side, I guess.
All right, yes, I mean, totally, like, back in the day, like in 2013, 14, 12, even sometimes now, like DeviantArt was the main
Yeah.
one of the main places for visual artists to post their works. But then even till now, it's these two, ArtStation and Instagram, are the biggest right
Yep.
now. And actually, I want to ask you something, like, the style of your works that I've been seeing is they all come from like a certain genre, and I was wondering, during your, like, upbringing and childhood, which video
Mhm.
game really inspired you into this genre? Because I'm sure there's some video games involved.
Hmm. As a, I didn't really had video gaming in my childhood that much because didn't have a console or PC that would like let me play. But movies were like a huge part of my life as a kid, as an adult still. I would say most of the movies that I watched inspired or shaped my style or what I choose to paint today more than games.
Oh, that's interesting. And I want to ask you something else. That how do you see right now, like from someone who's been like studying and like looking out in this industry for a long time till now? How have you seen the growth of like the concept art, the digital art scene in Turkey, and how do you think like where do you think this is it going?
Ooh. Ooh. How to answer this? How to answer this without pissing people off so much?
Oh God.
Okay, so specifically talking about Turkey.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Turkey.
So the fun thing is, when I tried to get into concept art, like this industry, there wasn't really much talks about concept art at all in Turkey. Like the concept of concept art wasn't really a thing. Like of course, some groups or like there was a calling for it. Like there were artists that are already doing the thing that is could say concept art, but there wasn't a tag on it as a concept art here. Everybody's like graphic designer or illustrator or general designer, etc. Then it's sort of with this like around 2015 and 16. Then with the whole social media and YouTube boom, it sort of became an overnight sensation with the artist community. Like everybody wanted to be a concept artist, and everybody called themselves a concept artist, whether they were or not, which created a lot of like which muddied the water a lot, in my opinion, because in a couple of months or years, like a few years, every new artist or like sort of professional artists started to call themselves art directors or concept artists or whatever. And then, in my opinion, lately, like today, it created a space of like really indistinguishable noise of artists. Everybody's a concept artist, everybody's a designer, everybody's a art director, everyone is this and that, and like everybody's something, but nobody is doing anything. Like, how can I put this in a correct sense? Like 6 years ago, there were no knowledge of what to do properly, and now everybody claims they know how to do everything, but still there's no work to be shown, like no proof of not worth, but
Yeah, I can see like what you mean by that,
yeah.
and but I was also wondering something else just related to this. Do you
Hmm.
know who are the most successful like Turkish digital and concept artists? Like because I was wondering about this.
Ooh, okay, a couple of names pop up in my mind because uh, they are still in work, because they were the guys that inspired me the most back when I was in high school or when I was starting out, like trying to teach myself. One of them, like the big big guy, like the big name of them is like Kerem Beyit, like that is the OG for me. The second would be Eren Arık. Then there is Ömer Tunç. Um, wait, whoever am I forgetting? They are going to be pissed at me. Yeah, like those three. Oh, Melike Acar. Yeah, not really a concept artist. She's more of a comic artist. But yeah, those four were the major inspiration for me when I was a teenager. And still, I still eagerly wait for them to post something.
Oh, that's really interesting. And because here's the thing, when like I moved into Turkey,
Oh,
I
there's İlker Serdar.
Ikar who?
İlker Serdar Yıldız. I
Ah,
think that was the name.
Ilkar Sardar
I-
Yıldız. All right, I'll check them out
Yeah.
later. By the way, I just checked Karen Bate. By the way, like his works
Yeah.
look really clean, really
Yep.
good. And
I have been a fan of him like forever.
yeah, and the weird thing when I got in here, I was like, why in my feed and explore page on social medias is just Iranian artists? Because I did like the logic from it was, oh, because of course you're Iranian and the content you're like, the algorithm like feeds you is the same
Yeah.
thing that your mutuals and blah blah blah. But like after a while that passed, I was like, why don't I see like more Turkish artists? Like I've seen a lot of like very successful graffiti artists. Like in that sense, it's super
Mhm.
actually like surprisingly strong. Like even in Istanbul.
Mhm.
But like in general, the digital concept art, I was shocked that it's not as like like how
Yeah.
should I say it, as much passionate and like I don't know what's the correct word, like
Grown up.
yeah,
I would say.
exactly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's because it's like relatively pretty new here, as I said. Like the times I was speaking of, like is just 2014 and 15. It's like just literally 6-7 years ago, and the in that time, like 5-6 years is not a long time to actually, how can I say, um, have a like solid foundation for a generation to have like get good at something. Like there are
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course there are some pretty good names in there, but they they were already doing it and they got better in those 5-6-7 years. uh there of course there are some young artists that are coming along, but still it's a really tight time frame, and really um hard for one to, especially in these like in the circumstances of this country. It's not easy for a student or an artist to actually have the dedication and time and like motivation to get good, like in in layman terms. uh Karen Bates and the like İlker Sağ, like those guys are exception, and they already were coming from a solid foundation of fine arts and graphic design, etc. In my case, I sort of, I'm not saying I'm in that level, no way near, uh, but I had the, how can I say, like privilege of not having to worry about many like the stubborn side of me, as a like when I say fuck this and leave, like I'm done, I'm not going to worry or spend some time on that shit again, so I could just focus on one thing. So I decided to focus on art and getting better. So, and I told my friends that they were we were talking at the time that they wanted to do the same, like they wanted to get into concept art, but they couldn't uh, focus or sacrifice the same amount of time and energy as I did, because I literally just woke up, started painting, started doing some research, watching tutorials, etc. 10, 12 hours a day at least for a couple of years. And it took a toll, but it also gave some results too.
all right. And who are your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Oh, worldwide? Like from
Sorry.
worldwide? Like from all
Yes,
artists?
yes, of course.
Oh boy. See, this is one of those times, like, somebody asks you something and you are really passionate about it and know everything. But when they ask you, you literally lose every knowledge of anything.
By the way, just to be fair, this is like the most hardest question people
Yeah.
usually have to deal with on the podcast.
Like, I already have a really bad name memory. Oof. See, I keep seeing paintings right now, but I can't remember the names. What's the biggest?
That's literally the problem everyone has. Like they remember the artists by their works rather than
Yeah,
their names. I mean, as artists, we're usually like pretty visual people, so I mean that's kind of makes sense. Makes
yeah,
sense.
true. I will say, remember the name? But Simonetti, Mark Simonetti. Yeah, remember that guy is a legend. I think him and Raf Grassetti and what was the who was the there was a traditional artist, I think Italian, um Riccardo Federici, if I'm remembering correctly. Wait, let me see. Yes, Riccardo Federici. I have been following him for years now. I don't know when I started following him, but every time I look up on his work, I'm like, whoa. So much talent, like not talent, so much skill and work, so good. And it's all traditional on paper, like it's not even digital. The guy just is that good.
All right, pretty interesting.
Of course, there are so many great names.
Yeah,
I just can't
yeah. I mean, fair
pull out the
enough. I
names.
kind of put you on the
Yeah.
spot. So I'm sorry.
I mean, you could ask me this like later, and I will literally write down a list of like hundreds,
Oh yeah, I mean, I
like
can see
basic.
that.
How many people I'm following on? I'm following like 400 people on our station. Like, take those guys.
All right, that's fair
Yeah,
enough. I
yeah,
can actually copy the link to that your following
yeah.
section and just put it in the captions. That seems fair.
Yeah,
All
there was
right.
a Russian guy.
Oh, you're trying to find him?
Um, I was his name Timothy, not Timothy. Something Stepanov, I think. His
Not.
line art is like. Let me see.
All
Stepanov.
right, take your time.
Timofey Stepanov.
Timothy Stepanov.
From
All right.
Novgorod, Russia.
Oh,
His line art,
interesting.
like he had more works on his art station, but I think he removed some of them because there were more. Like, I don't know how that style just visually pleases me so much.
Yeah, Timothy Stepanov. I saw his stuff. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all right. Let me ask you another question. What are you working on right now that you can tell us
Mhm.
about? What kind of project is it? I mean, of course, if there's something that there's NDA involved, we can skip right past this question. But if that's not the case, what are you doing right now?
I can't um I'm working on Capcom's Tepan. It's a mobile game. I don't know if it's available here, but as a card illustrator for the past 3 years now. Um, Other than that, I'm doing some personal projects that I hopefully going to be sharing sometime this century. Uh, Other than that, I am doing we are doing the Battle for Middle-earth Reforged project as it's a fun project. I'm doing the concept arts for those, like for character concepts and some creatures. Right now, I'm trying to paint a really angry dragon. Um, Other than that, not really much going on other than those.
All right, awesome. And all right, next question is kind of like a break, like some sort of break from all this tiring questions.
Okay.
And it's what area beside the area you're working on right now would you be interested to explore and learn in the future? Well, basically, what I mean by that is like, aside from what you're focusing on and doing, which is like, of course, art and visual development and all of that, what would you like to do or learn or any ambition you have for later when you have like enough time and energy?
If I had the time, I would really like to get into those, like the model making, like the little tiny models, figures.
Oh, the Warhammer ones, yeah, I know.
Yeah, kind of like that, but not Warhammer per se, but like the figurines and characters, etc. Of like let's say movie characters, etc. That's really something I would like to do, but I know that it's really time consuming and expensive to get into. Other than that, I would actually like to get into linguistics a lot. Is it the correct term? Linguistic? Like the language stuff.
Yes.
I would like to learn some proper ways of how to understand proper ways of the languages work and like breakdown. Because I find the languages and etc. like the way the human mind works on languages pretty amazing. Because like how the language defines a person thinks depending on the language, and those sort of things. But again, time and energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And all right, I think I'm gonna put you on the spot for one last time because we've reached the
Okay.
final question of the
Really?
podcast. Yeah.
Damn.
And this section is called Final Words, which I'm gonna explain to you. For anyone who might be listening to this episode of the podcast in the future,
I'm
whether it
sorry.
be a good one, that was actually kind of unexpected, but that's actually fun. The timing was good, nice. Yeah, I mean, for anyone in the future who might be listening to this podcast, whether it be weeks, months, years, decades, and they've reached this point of this, podcast, like minute 36, 7 right now. And if you could, as a human, you had this limited amount of window of time to leave them any message or messages as a human to another human being, like, what would you say?
Okay, that was a really hard one. Whoa, damn. Ooh. I would say from one human to another, like a really simply remember to slow down, take a breath, and quietly just stay for a bit to be able to hear and listen what is going around you. I mean this in a sense of what are people trying to tell you and what are the lessons you should be learning in that moment that you are too busy to understand or to get. Sometimes we just need to take a moment of like clarity and better ourselves, and treat the people in our lives better, because we are all human. We all hang up on the circumstances of life, and we all forget to listen and to care for each other. So like in the core of everything, it's just like it's simply in the core of everything to be able to stop and learn, like to listen, because everybody is too busy to talk, like to be heard, but nobody is eager to listen.
All right, that's actually such an interesting, one of the most interesting answers I've ever got to that question. I mean, that's actually such a nice note to end this podcast on as well.
Yeah, I like keep saying, especially in the climate of today, of this year, and of this region, people are just so eager to condemn and like throw shade at each other. They don't fix anything. They just make everything worse. So yeah.
That kind of reminds me of a League of Legends lobby, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, gaming in general.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming by for this episode. It was a blast, and thank you to anyone who tuned in and listened to this episode. I hope you all have a great day. As usual, if there's any comments, suggestions, or critiques, you can leave them down in the comments, whether on YouTube, Castbox or Instagram, or send it on the Kouryer Podcast Instagram page on DMs. I'll read them all as well. And that's about it. Thank you so much for coming by, and thank you to everyone who tuned in again. Take care,
Thank you.
everyone. And till
Thank
next
you for
episode.
having me.
Bye.